Could the Sharks be looking to ship out one or multiple defensemen coming up soon, even way before the trade deadline? So we're going to be discussing the rumors around potential Sharks going out and if Vlasic has lost his fire. So all that and more on today's episode.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello. Welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is Tank Commander JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everyday, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. If you're watching on YouTube, we are in the bedroom. I've got the cat here hanging out with me as we have company over right now. So the Sharks, there's a lot of teams right now looking for defensemen, and Mike Grier has, much like that guy in your fantasy football draft who just stockpiles all the quarterbacks, Mike Grier has stockpiled all the defensemen right now and creating a logjam of defensemen. And it could be a time now where the Sharks start to move some of these pieces, try to alleviate and help in the old asset management, collecting more assets. So we're going to look at which players are potentially available, look at Mario Ferraro, who's been a hot name, and then talk about Vlasic. A lot of this based off of Elliotte Friedman's 32 Thoughts podcast today. So before we get into all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you guys by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. And I know Tuesday night the Sharks do play the Islanders and at 4 p.m. Pacific or 4:30. I think it's 4:30 Pacific. You can catch every shot, hit, goal from the Sharks hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search Sharks. So let's first start with looking at what pieces could be potentially available for the Sharks. And you hear the two names that are not available are Shakir Mukamadullin and Nikitia Okhotiuk. Both these, of course, coming back from the pieces coming back from the Timo Meier trade, and it would make sense that those two guys are not available. Another guy who I would assume is not available would be one Henry Thrun, who is playing down in the AHL, but looks to be a long-term solution for the Sharks. I would be surprised unless a team offers you the moon for Henry Thrun, but I don't think a smart team would be offering that much. So those are the kind of the three guys that I would put in the yeah, thanks but no thanks type of position. So I know they mentioned on Elliotte Friedman's 32 Thoughts, they mentioned those Shakir Mukamadullin and they mentioned Nikitia Okhotiuk, who look to be big pieces for the Sharks in the future. I would also put Henry Thrun in that bucket, right? I don't see a team. I don't see the Sharks, especially after paying up a third-round pick a year ago for him. I just don't see them moving off this quickly from him, especially with how well Thrun played at the end of last year. I know it's been kind of a little bit of a transitional year this year, right? That's to be expected, especially as you make that jump from NCAA to professional hockey. So, but I still think there's a bright future for Henry Thrun. So looking at the rest of the defensemen, and again, it is potentially everyone's available. Let's kind of at least put guys in probably sure, come talk to me, make a deal. I'd have to think really hard about this one, and it's going to cost you probably way more than you're willing to consider. So I think guys who are probably pretty safe, I would say Ty Emberson and Kalen Addison, both of which the Sharks acquired this offseason or this either offseason or beginning of the season. Of course, Ty Emberson, the Sharks acquired through waivers claim from the New York Rangers, and has been really playing solid hockey for the Sharks now that he's kind of gotten his feet underneath him. And then Kalen Addison, who the Sharks traded for a couple weeks ago from the Minnesota Wild, and he's been playing really good hockey now, again, now that he's gotten his feet underneath him. Those guys are guys I think it would Mike Grier would want a lot, and I don't think those type of players probably not worth, like, it just doesn't make sense, right, for another team to try to acquire those, especially given where the Sharks are. I think these guys are looked at as potential long-term pieces for the Sharks, and both these guys are under 23, cost controlled for the next couple of years. While they could be enticing for other teams, I just think they're probably going to be in San Jose for a while, right? So guys who potentially, if the right offer comes around, but most likely are going to say with San Jose just because of contract aid, et cetera, et cetera. I think you look at guys like Burrows and Benning as potential, like, if the right deal comes, we'd be more than willing to listen, but they're probably going to be here for the next couple of years. And both these guys, right, are Mike Grier guys that he brought in. Both these guys signed last year, or either last year or this year in free agency. Both kind of that gritty defensive player, and I think Benning had a better year last year than what we've seen so far this year. But I still think we can kind of see Benning be a solid defenseman. And he still has 3 years left on his 3 years left at $1.25 million for next a year. And then Kyle Burrows, who was just brought in this year at $1.1 million. Very easy to move contract. But again, they just got here. And I don't see that. I don't see that happening. So guys who I think it's open and we would be happy, let's try kind of maybe strike up a deal. Jacob McDonald, who I know has been playing forward for the Sharks, but is actually a defenseman by nature and on a very reasonable contract. And he's played really well for the Sharks. And I think he could be a nice, like, you get, nice. If you just need holes to plug, Jacob McDonald is more than capable of kind of plugging holes in the bottom six from the bottom pairing. And he's looked pretty good doing it. And cheap contract, right? Basically the least amount you could possibly pay somebody in Jacob McDonald. And then he's a UFA. It's not going to cost much. Like, you're looking at maybe like a sixth or seventh round pick for a guy like Jacob McDonald. So Jan Rutta, I think, is another. If you ask, the Sharks would be more than happy to kind of work something out. Again, brought here in the Erik Karlsson trade, does have 2 years left on his deal at 2.75. So I think that the contract is movable, especially next year with the cap finally going up. It's supposed to go up about $4 million. So I think a team, if they want somebody who can kind of come in and, help maybe bridge while you're waiting for some of your younger defensemen, or if you just want someone who has that Stanley Cup pedigree like Jan Rutta does. I don't think it's going to cost too much to acquire a guy like Jan Rutta. Maybe you're looking, again, like a fourth, fifth, sixth round pick. And I think the Sharks would happily, again, whatever you can try to get for some of these guys as you're trying to clear the logjam. Then that leaves two guys left. Marc-Edouard Vlasic, who I think the Sharks would be more than happy to trade. But of course, he has a 3-team no trade clause, and there's a lot of issues with Vlasic. We'll talk about Vlasic more at the end. And then that leaves one Mario Ferraro with his contract. 2 years left, 3.25, 2 years left after this year. So he's $3.25 million, still 25. So two other guys I did forget, Radim Šimić, Nikolai Knizhov. Knizhov, if somebody wanted to ask for him, I could see potentially, and Šimić, if you get anything for Radim Šimić, you take the money and run with it, even if it's like a future 7th round pick, even if it's future considerations just to maybe get him off your cap. It doesn't matter. But because Radim Šimić right now he's playing well, but again, he is a progress stopper for your other defensemen at this moment because right, you want to see what Gavanke's got, you want to see what Mukamadullin's got, you want to see Henry Thrun, you want to see some of your other young defensemen, and Šimić just kind of just there right now. So we'll see with Knizhov and Šimić. Nice thing with those guys is they're both cleared waivers. That gives another team some flexibility because they don't have to clear waivers again. But Mario Ferraro, I think, is the big prize, potential prize. So we'll talk about what Mario Ferraro could potentially get the Sharks and what teams make the most amount of sense for him. So we'll do that here in 1 second. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you wish you could do the same thing with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. You don't have to spend multiple hours on job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. And Indeed does all the hard work for you. You can sponsor a job and boom, Instant Match shows you candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your job description, and immediately after you post with Instant Match, you can start hiring fast. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications or applicants, that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application. Pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right, so what potential Mario Ferraro, right? And I know, let's start with the case of why I think it makes a lot of sense to trade Mario Ferraro. And I think this is going to be, Mario Ferraro is a very popular player among fans. You see plenty of 38 jerseys. He's basically done everything you've asked for. He's a team leader. He's one of the alternate captains. Like, I see the reasoning of why you keep Mario Ferraro. He's only 25. He's still, you know exactly what you're getting with Mario Ferraro. But if it was me, I would try to get out of Mario Ferraro. I would try to trade him this season for a couple reasons. One, I think he has plateaued, and I've talked about this before. He's not been. And it's not Mario Ferraro's fault. I think Mario Ferraro has been asked to do way too much, way too soon, right? And you go back to his rookie season, we were very excited about Mario Ferraro as the next kind of two-way defenseman for the Sharks. And since then, it's just we haven't seen the offense pop from him that you would expect, right? And he's been asked to do way too much, right? He's been playing top line minutes, having to play with Brent Burns, having to cover for Brent Burns a lot. He's been playing with Erik Karlsson. He's had to been the leading penalty killer, especially as Marc-Edouard Vlasic has declined. Ferraro's been asked to do that stuff. And, I get the point, like, you drafted and developed him and he's a hometown person. I get all that, but I don't think I don't see Mario Ferraro's game aging well for a couple reasons. One, he blocks a lot of shots, and he's very good at it, but we've seen some injuries coming from that, right? He hurt his foot a couple years ago, puck to the mouth. Like, you put yourself in a lot of danger to get injured when you play that style of game. I worry about Mario Ferraro going forward as he gets older. Can he survive a full hockey season, especially with the style of hockey he plays, right? He leads the NHL in block shots right now. All it takes is one, and again, it could be Mario Ferraro blocking a shot, and it could be whoever blocking a shot. There's always opportunities to get injured that way, but when you block that many shots, I worry about it. So I would be in the business of trying to get something from Mario Ferraro before he starts to deteriorate a little bit more, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe I think his value is at its highest right now. His contract is movable. And I know if a team that's going to be looking for him is going to be looking for a guy who can kind of help with them. And these are all playoff caliber teams who are usually pretty tight to the cap. But I would be looking to move Mario Ferraro. And the teams that we've heard about are the Carolina Hurricanes, who made a run at him last year. And the team right now that is dying for defensive help is the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we'll start with the Carolina Hurricanes, who I think it feels like they're kind of they've been sniffing around a lot of defensemen, right? They were apparently in on the Erik Karlsson trade us for a little while. Of course, they acquired Brent Burns from the Sharks. Like it seems like they're not super happy with their defensive structure. So they do have a little bit of room. They also they do have the cap space right now to acquire a player like Mario Ferraro. So their current cap space right now is 2.5. Remember, cap space, it kind of, you add it up / subtract it from their contract. So as the season goes on, that contract becomes smaller and smaller because you kind of pay it out throughout the season. And the cap space becomes a little bit bigger as you kind of save that cap space. So right now, we'll see. But the Hurricanes do have a little bit of cap space, and they have plenty of free agent. They're going to have some money coming off the books this season. They're going to go into next year with $31 million of cap space. So if they want to easily retain Mario Ferraro, that's no big deal. For the Hurricanes, they're also pretty well stocked on picks, especially this year. They have their own pick and the Flyers pick in the second round. And I think you start by asking for the Flyers pick, and maybe you take a little bit of a contract back. So maybe a guy who's just not playing as well. I'm not taking Tony DAngelo unless you want to have Tony DAngelo come and you just terminate his contract or something like that, or just bench him. Like, I'm not taking the Tony DAngelo contract back, even though it's very small. I just don't want him around the Sharks team right now. Doesn't seem like the greatest locker room guy from all. Yes. So, but I think you try to ask for the Flyers second round pick. If not, maybe you get the Hurricanes second round pick, which is going to be a late second round pick anyway. So if you can do that, and maybe you take back a contract just to make contracts even. They have plenty of contract space. The Sharks, actually, they have 40 out of 50 contracts, so they could actually easily acquire Mario Ferraro without having to give up, without having to send a contract back. They should be able to make things work when it comes to salary cap space. So I keep an eye on their goaltenders if they're trying to improve that, especially with some of the injuries and issues that they've been having with goaltending right now. But I think makes a lot of sense for them if they want to add another guy like that. And I think Brent Burns is starting to show a little bit of the age here for them. Not that Mario Ferraro, but is going to do what Brent Burns does. So I could see that one a lot. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are dying right now for any sort of healthy bodies on the blue line. They have multiple guys out right now. Mike Giordano just is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks with a broken finger. Jake Muzzin, he's on LTIR. John Klingberg on LTIR. Timothy Leglierin is also on LTIR. So they have a bunch of LTIR room, but they're also still really tight to the cap, even with all the LTIR room. So they, unfortunately, they have their first round pick this year, a third rounder, a fourth rounder, and a bajillion fifth rounders. So let's do it. Okay. Maybe with them, if you can entice the first round pick out, and maybe you take back a bad contract, right? So again, or maybe you send back a pick of your own. I don't know. I would try to get that first round pick from the Maple Leafs. So they are desperate, right? Maybe their goalies are all dead right now. Well, they're in a tough spot right now. Looking ahead, right? They're not going to be able to sign William Nylander. He's going to be a free agent, future Shark William Nylander. They're gonna have cap space next year. So if they want to keep Mario Ferraro, like they don't have to worry about that. And I know they got some guys they'll have to kind of take care of and stuff going into next year. Tyler Bertuzzi if they want to re-sign him or whoever. But I assume William Nylander is going to be gone. So that is the big ticket price item there. Then you'll all their LTIR guys are either free agents or this off season. So Mario Ferraro does make a lot of sense for a team like that. I know they're looking for a right-handed shot, but I think they're looking for that kind of more grizzled defensive defenseman who can maybe chip in some offense as well. And that one makes a lot of sense. So I would, again, if you take back a bad contract, maybe they're trying to salary cap to try to get that first-round pick. So that would potentially give you, you'd have your own, the Penguins first-round pick, the Maple Leafs first round pick, and then if the Devils get their act together, you could be looking at some pretty nice picks, or you could look in their prospect pool. I'm asking for Topi Niemelä. I'm asking for Topi Niemelä. I don't know if you're getting Topi Niemelä, but that's what I'm asking for because I think he's really good, and I think he could be a piece for you in the future on the blue line. So we'll continue talking about Ferraro here in a minute and then talk about Vlasic in just 1 second. If you want to buy some tickets for yourself, maybe for a loved one for the holidays, you shouldn't have to worry about the hassle of it, right? GameTime helps you out with killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seats, and their best price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They're the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for sports, music, comedy, theater, events, whatever you were looking for, they've got you covered. I like them because I like to see my seats before I go because I don't want to get there and realize I have a bad seat. The only thing worse than that is when you go to check out and they slam a bunch of fees on top of you. GameTime does not do that. They have all-in prices showing you your total upfront, so you know exactly what you're paying for without any hidden deals. They're obsessed with finding you helping you to save money on your tickets. They have deals on tickets right up to the start of the event. Even an hour after it starts is the place to find last minute seats. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, so let's kind of finish up with Ferraro here. So, I'm definitely trying to move Ferraro because I think now's the time to do it, and I'm looking for a team like the Maple Leafs who are very, very desperate. They need defensive help, right? All the guys that they've lost, they're kind of for the 7th year in a row. It feels like it's the Maple Leafs kind of cup or bust for them. And if you have to take back a bad contract, maybe it's not even a bad contract, but like, Simone Benoit, who's an like whatever type of he's played 9 games for them this year. He's played and he doesn't have any points. Maybe it's kind of their 7th defenseman type of player. So you can kind of make things work, and that's an upgrade for them, but you're getting back a player. You're getting back a quality piece, and they're kind of tough because you're looking at a potential I think a second round is kind of the right asking price for a guy like Mario Ferraro, who's going to come in and he's going to be a good guy in the locker room. He's going to try hard, right? We know Mario Ferraro, he tries hard every shift. And I think again, where he's not having to maybe be the guy, or I think him as more of a fourth pairing, third or fourth defenseman, I think is a better fit for him. He's going to play a lot of penalty kill. We know exactly what Mario Ferraro is going to do. So I think it's second round. Maybe you can get the Islanders pick with the third round. Because that's the thing. The Maple Leafs don't have a second round pick for the next 3 seasons. They don't have their first round. They have their first round pick this year. They don't have it in the 25 draft. And maybe they have a first round pick in the 2026 draft. That's a really long time from now. Or maybe you just get a bunch of picks back from them, like a third and multiple 5. But again, I'm still trying to go for that quality pick from them. Or you get like a 5th round pick and like a better prospect. So that's where I think where you can ask for Tapi Niemela, who I think is going to be very, very good. Again, I don't think who knows, but that's who I'm asking for. If he's got 12 points in 17 games in his first AHL season, after playing really well over in Europe. So that's who I'm asking for, because I think he's going to be NHL ready sooner rather than later. And then you can start to look at the defense and look at how it's been rebuilt on the fly. So before we get out of here, though, I think it was very interesting. Elliotte Friedman, he talked about Marc-Edouard Vlasic today, which was his choice of words was very intriguing. Where it seems like Vlasic just doesn't maybe have the same competitive juice. I'm trying to kind of gather what he said, but he basically said he just doesn't have the same kind of fire, that drive or motivation that he did before. And you wonder if, especially with the way Vlasic has played and then also been a healthy scratch, if this could be leading to a parting of ways between the Sharks and Marc-Edouard Vlasic. Nobody's trading for Marc-Edouard Vlasic's contract, especially $7 million for the next 2 seasons. And the Sharks would have to probably attach you have to attach potentially a first round pick. If you to get rid of that contract, right? Go back to when the Leafs paid a first round pick to get rid of 1 year of Patrick Marleau and his $7 million. That's right. You're having to get rid of 2 years of Marc-Edouard Vlasic at $7 million. And I just don't see, I'm not in the business of giving up a valuable first round pick if I'm the Sharks, because you need that for your rebuild, right? You need every lottery ticket, every high-end lottery ticket, and those first round picks are high-end lottery tickets for you. So I assume this is leading to an eventual buyout coming this summer. And then I wouldn't be surprised maybe Marc-Edouard Vlasic jumps onto one more team on like a vetman type of deal, tries to kind of make things work there, or that would be my guess, especially because he's gonna get paid no matter what, right? If he gets bought out, he's getting that money. Event is just, he's getting that money. So him signing on for a vetman deal, it's not, doesn't really change how he's getting paid. So just if you wanted to know how much his buyout would be, so the Sharks would have a cap hit in the 24-25 season of $3.8 million, 25-26 season a cap hit of $4.8, and then 2 years at $1.33 million. So not the worst, and especially over the next 2 years where the Sharks cap is really starting to clean up. They don't really, they're not going to have a lot of big names on their that they're going to have to pay. Like, the Sharks cap is going to look really clean here really soon. So maybe you're still freeing up some money, right? You're freeing up $3 million that you can go do something else with, especially with how aggressive I think the Sharks are going to be in free agency this season. But it's going to be sad because Marc-Edouard Vlasic has been such a staple to the Sharks. But it just, if Elliotte Friedman's saying that, like, that's, I don't think that just comes out of nowhere. And again, is with how he has not been playing, he's been a healthy scratch, even with all the injuries. The Sharks are kind of just like, you just hang out in the press box right now. And I think it's, at this point, it's probably just going to be wait until the season's over and then kind of move ways. So, but I think though the Sharks could be looking at moving some defensemen here really soon. Especially if the Leafs watch the Leafs, right? I think they're very desperate to try to go really far this season because we know this is probably the end of this core four with them. And I think they're trying to kind of finish things off here. So potentially getting Mario Ferraro, if you got to take a bad contract back, do not retain money. You have one retention slot. Do not retain money this right now. Like, do not retain money. But if you can get Mario Ferraro, maybe you got to send back a fourth or a third or something like that. Maybe it's just like the Barclay Goodrow deal where you got to send something back. I'm try to get as many picks in the top 2 rounds as you can. Get yourself set up for long-term success. So yeah, I would try to squeeze a first round out of the Leafs. So especially for Mario Ferraro. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, to talk about the Sharks Islanders game. And then we'll probably, of course, maybe take a swing back by the Prospect Reef at some point this week, if not multiple times. So I'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Until then, bye, friends.